CEU, open day. It's nice when you get a look at what I'm working on in it. There we go. Okay. Anyway, I think the first thing to understand about these kind of managers in this part of the world is that you guys have change as part of your DNA. A lot of times when I go to the West, people say that Darwin said the strongest survive, or the survival of the fittest, I think is what he actually said. A lot of people think that what he meant is the strongest survive. But what he really meant was the people who are most adaptable survive. And think about it, change is part of your DNA. You guys, as you've been in this part of the world, you were raised in this part of the world, most of you. Since 1990, 1989, 1990, things have been changing at an incredibly rapid pace. You go to the grocery store, and there's a whole bunch of new brands there that every time you go. Everything you think about, the route you get to work, is changing at an incredible pace. So what happens out of that is that you guys are very adaptable. And we got to make use of that better in our education. Now, one of the problems is that a lot of people, when I came to Central and Eastern Europe in 1995, I was responsible for setting up marketing for Coke throughout this region into Central Europe, but Romania as well. And I had this belief that a lot of people did. Well, Romania is just like, Berlin 20 years ago, or it's just like Chicago 30 years ago, or some crazy notion. I thought that for about a week, because then we just need to catch up. All we got to do is catch you up to the standards, the way we do it, and that's it. But I don't think that's the right thinking. I think it's more about leap ahead. I heard about the time, just before that, I happened to heard President Clinton at the time had gone to India. And he'd said, and it wasn't very well reported, in fact I never heard about it since, but it really captured my mind. He said, he was talking to a bunch of people in India, a bunch of students like this, probably a little bigger because he's President of the United States, so he can pull a bigger crowd. Anyway, he's talking to a bunch of students, and he said, you shouldn't be thinking about catching up to the West. You should be thinking about leaping ahead. And the way you're going to do that is technology. Now you go, well, yeah. But in 1994, that wasn't the way it was in India. But today, that's what you think about India. Look at the rate of change happening in India in the last 12 years, 13 years since that statement. They really, not because Clinton said to them, I think there's some things already happening, but that idea of leap ahead. When you took at airlines, I look at Malev, the Hungarian airline, but Taram's doing the same thing, Lot's doing the same thing. They come out of the gate in 1990, 1991, 92, because I talked to a lot of guys that were working at the airline at the time, and they said, we got to catch up to the West. We got to create a flag carrier just like there is in the West. And their model was Swiss Air. Now, Swiss Air was the premium airline for a long, long time, right? By the way, it doesn't exist now. But Swiss Air was the flag carrier. What it means, a flag carrier, is that you put the flag on the back of the plane and it flies all over the world, and it spreads Swiss culture, it spreads Hungarian culture, it spreads American culture, etc. American Airlines is a flag carrier of the United States. It spreads this. And you look at almost like a political message that you do. In fact, the Hungarians just sold their airline a year ago, and the rule was they couldn't take the flag off the plane and they couldn't change the name because they're still addicted to this flag carrier mentality. But think of the flag carrier means you try to get to, you want to make sure you reach all these capitals. And that was what they wanted to catch up to, which means about 300 employees per plane. But in 1991-92, Ryanair was already about 10 years old. Southwest Airlines was already about 20 years old, and they have 30 employees per plane. They're incredibly profitable. They're operating on a regional basis, and they don't care about flags at all. And that's the model. That was the handwriting on the wall in 1991-92. But nobody paid attention to that. They didn't think about leaping ahead. They think about catching up to a failed model. When I went over to Coke, and I arrived, I became the general manager in Hungary, and I said, what are we going to do? We just built the biggest bottling plant in Europe. Huge bottling plant, doing a Herosty. I said, okay, well, that's great. Now, what are we going to do? What's the plan? We're now going to build the biggest ice plant, they said proudly. Biggest ice plant. What for? Well, that's because that's how it was built in the United States. The Coca-Cola was built in the United States based on ice, and you put Coke in ice, and you drink with lots of ice, and you get it really cold, and that's how it works. How many people have been to the United States? You remember when you went to get a Coca-Cola and they filled it with this much ice? And you get the big gulp, it's like this big, it's like obscene, and it's got this much ice, and you look at it and you go, give me some Coke, I mean, I'm paying for ice, and you feel ripped off. Tell me you didn't feel ripped off the first time you got a Coke in the United States. And the Americans come over and they get a Coke, and they look at it and they go, here's this little Coke, and there's no ice in it, can I get some ice? And the Americans are addicted to ice. And so we're going to do that mentality, because Coke's very successful in the United States, it has to be about ice. And that was what we were going to catch up to. But think about it. How stupid is that? Nobody even stopped to think about it. We make, you put ice in Coca-Cola, it waters the product down, so it destroys the taste. It kills the carbonation. And, very importantly, we make no money from selling ice. So why are we doing that? But nobody thought about it. They just got so caught up into this catch-up mentality, they never took the time to think about what they're really catching up to. So we really got to stop doing that. As a school, are we leading the way in how we do business? Are we catching up to the way business schools in the West are? And by the way, for a long time, for the first 20 years, we're going to be 20 years from now. And the mentality of the school was that we are a Western-style MBA located in Budapest. Now that was really important in 1988. In 1988, we were the first MBA program in this part of the world. So being an American-style MBA was a damn special thing. But it's redundant today. So what? You got a Western-style MBA. Who doesn't? And it's nice that it's in Budapest, but we're going to sell our school based on where we're located. And by the way, you're talking about a weekend MBA program, a lot of you, in Bucharest. So it's not even relevant anymore. So we had to change the way you think. And our new thinking is, how do we leap ahead in business education and management education to a different level? One of the ways we do it is we look at every discipline. And I'm challenging all of our professors, Tom, Adrian, we had a conversation, but I had a staff meeting yesterday, and we're all talking about finance. Yes, 80% of what you teach in finance is what you have to teach in finance. But let's go out ahead of it a little bit. What's the next thing? Where is it moving to? Let's think about how we leap ahead. And that's what we've got to start thinking about, because you guys are going to be demanding of us. And you guys get that. And we're a little slow picking it up. I think we're catching up now. So what's standing in our way? Let me talk about now getting more into marketing, because I can, say to Tom, well, you need to get state-of-the-art in supply chain management. Well, I'm not sure what state-of-the-art is. I don't know enough about it. So I got to count on him to do that, and he's going to show you that in a little bit. So I'm going to show you what state-of-the-art is in marketing, and you can tell how many people in here are from marketing. Anybody have a marketing background? You do? Anybody else? Peter, you're from marketing. A little fast with that hand.